Hello again, RoyZesch.REALTOR here with Coldwell Banker Legacy in San Angelo. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you about some health and nutrition things. So why are you going to do that? You're a real estate guy, right? Well, yes, I enjoy selling real estate, but one of the reasons I got into real estate was I like helping people. And this is something I've spent years researching and finding a good bit out about. And if I can find a way to share that with people and help them, then that's also a positive. Plus, it's my video. I can do whatever I want to. So, first off, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a certified nutritionist. These are my opinions. They're not the opinions of Coldwell Banker Legacy or anybody else. So, take them for what they're worth. We'll start with giving just a little history of kind of my track through this, my journey, so to speak. When my wife was pregnant with our second daughter, who's going to be 26 this year. So about 26 years ago, we had pictures taken at church, family pictures, and we got the proofs back and looked at them like, we look like the Chipmunk family, okay? So it was a kind of a revelation to me, like, whoa, I knew I was gaining a little weight, and my wife was as well, but didn't realize how bad it was until I saw the pictures. So that was one of the kickstarters for the journey for us. And so the first thing, what I ended up doing shortly after that was the Atkins Diet. And so I went on the Atkins Diet, lost a large amount of weight, kept it off for 15 years, had no real issues with it, loved it, was passionate in sharing it with other people, telling them about it and that kind of stuff. But through that process, I learned some things. One of the things I learned was that there's no one size fits all. A lot of the people that I shared the Atkins with and that tried it themselves saw great results. And then there were those that didn't. And so as I've studied it and researched it more over the years and fine-tuned it and done some other things that just to change the way that I approached it, I've learned some things. And so I'm just going to try to share some of those with you. I've got some points I'll make later on in one of the videos. I don't know how long I'm going to go, but just kind of tell you some of that. So the first thing is there's variances between people. So I've kind of oversimplifying here because it always has to be. There's 6 different people in this world, okay, when you look at it. So 6 different sexes, so to speak, in the modern world's way of looking at things. But there really are. If you take males, there are prepubescent boys, males, and postpubescent. So there's drastic changes in the way the bodies work before puberty and after puberty with boys. So now if you take an 18-year-old young man versus an 80-year-old man, yes, there's differences, but they're more in degrees. They're the basic hormones that are affecting their body are pretty much set. But when you get to women, it gets a little more complicated. You have your prepubescent women. That's the same as the males. Then you have your menstruating women. So from the time they start menstruating until stop, everything's, in that time frame, everything is more or less the same. Not exactly, but more or less. But then in the midst of that, anywhere, you can have pregnant women. So a pregnant woman's needs, her physical diet and health and nutrition needs are different than a woman of exactly the same age who's in the stage of life where she's menstruated because she's not pregnant. And then you have the postmenopausal women. So in all of those, their hormones change drastically in all 4 of those time periods. So there's some variances there. So what does that mean when you look at it? And then there's genetic variances. There's, depending on the part of the world, particularly in America, where we do have a cross-section of people from different parts of the world, where your ancestors came from affects the genetics and the foods that they were adapted to in their country of origin. And then, of course, there's a lot of mixing and stuff like that. And so there's different susceptibilities to different things. If you're of African descent or European descent or Asian descent or whatever, Middle Eastern, any of those, then that's going to change the way things work for you. So there always has to be a little bit of experimentation in this. And that's one of the other things is don't be afraid to experiment. When you read stuff about certain diets and stuff, then hey, that's interesting, I'll try that. And try it for a while and see how it works. And sometimes there's a transition period you got to get through. You may feel horrible a day or two into it, and then later on you start feeling a lot better. And that's true, particularly when people get into the low carb type stuff. When you've been eating a lot of carbs and you go off of them, it tends to make you feel pretty bad for a short period of time, days, maybe even week or more. And that can be uncomfortable. But the backside of it, once you push through that, then you're going to feel better. So research, find out for yourself what some of the stuff's going on. And just don't be afraid to try different things. If you hear somebody that said something worked for them, then that's great. One of the things you got to realize too, when you read any of this study says this, and you get the highlights, the bullet points of a study, even if that study was really well done and honest, all you get's the bullet points most of the time. You don't go read the study. I certainly don't, and I spend hours researching this. So you've got to find some resources that can help you filter it out, because when they say something simple, whatever, saturated fat is bad for you, sugar is bad for you, smoking is bad for you. Well, there's truth possibly in all of those. Sometimes the research is manipulated and stuff, but a lot of times it's basically honest research, but it's oversimplified. Even cigarettes, as demonized as they are in our world today, they have some positive effects. They can help you with some stuff, but they do have negative effects. That's not to deny the negative effects. So just realize it's a lot more complicated than the highlights. And so as we go through this, I'm going to try to start with the things that are the least controversial, the most clear, and hopefully some suggestions of things that can save you money and help you with your time management, because it's a rabbit hole. When you get into health, nutrition, all this stuff, you can go however deep you want to go. And so if you don't want to go very far, that's fine. I'm going to try to give you some tips to help you if you're early in that process, and if that's as far as you want to go, things that will very likely save you money and make you healthier down the road. So that's one of the things I try to do. One of the basic approach that I have to it is, as little intervention as possible. Our medical science today can do some amazing things if you're in a situation where you need that, but it's best to avoid some of that. So as much as we can to let our body heal itself naturally, because that was designed into it from the beginning. So that's an important thing to think about. And it's going to sound like at times that I'm saying, well, we can just stop aging. Well, it doesn't work that way. You cannot stop. There's a certain built-in level of the aging process. But most of us in the standard American diet has a tendency to accelerate the aging process. And that's something you want to avoid. We want to avoid as much as we reasonably can. And then people say, well, I don't care. If I die, that's no big deal. And there's some truth to that. But the thing is, it's not the death that's really the big concern. It's the degenerative health issues when you can't function in life that are the things we're trying to avoid. So anyway, I can go as deep as anybody wants to go. So if you got more questions when I'm finished with this or in the middle, give me a call. We can talk about it. Just try to give you a broad overview, just run through some things. If you're looking for some ways to kind of change the direction of your health and nutrition and physical life, that try to give you a little bit of help with that. So any questions, give me a call. RoyZesch.REALTOR, 325-268-0775. Thank you.